Hey everyone, it's Karina. This week I have Erica Tait joining us. I met her at a spiritual festival where she was leading a shadow work exercise to hundreds of people, and it left me in awe because of her presence, her power. She commanded that stage, and I knew I wanted to connect with her. So now here we are a few months later, and she's on the Conscious Conversations podcast. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Erica Tait is a licensed psychotherapist. She's the owner of Quantum Psychotherapy Group. She's a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she's a Reiki master. After a profound near-death experience, she woke up to a reality that she was previously asleep to, that being the field of spirituality. So it's so funny because before quantum psychotherapy, before being a Reiki master, before being a yoga instructor, she didn't believe in this stuff. That's the crazy part. So with this insight after her near-death experience, along with years of education and experience, Erica has guided the healing journey of so many people by blending evidence-based Western modalities with spiritual healing, somatic practices. She loves what she does, and you are going to feel that through this episode. Her purpose in life is to bring awareness to our self-healing abilities in order to fulfill our fullest potential, because that's exactly what she did for herself. So if you're on the spiritual path or you're interested in beginning yours, you're going to want to listen all the way until the end. Let's get to it. I want to start with your background, your story, because when we first met and you told me about your near-death experience and how that catapulted you into who you are today, I was mind blown. So can you tell us about that experience and what opened up for you?
Absolutely. So initially, I was on my way to the Peace Corps. I was going to be a social worker, really grounded in the physical plane, and everything that was I could see, feel, that was reality. And I was going on a hike one day and I fell off a 60-foot cliff. I slipped and had a profound near-death experience there. I was there by myself for 7 hours, in and out of consciousness, and my ribs punctured my lungs, so I did technically die and was revived. But in that period of death, I had a really, really, really profound experience. And I was really very much an atheist before this experience. And
Oh,
yeah, very much so. I actually, the night before, I got into a fight with my sister about how there's no such thing as God, and I made her cry. And then the next morning, I fall off a cliff and I have a profound near death experience where I left my body and recognizing that, oh, wait, I'm not my body. There's something else that lives on beyond this personality,
mm.
this sense of self. And yeah, since then it's been quite the
Whoa.
journey.
Whoa. So God was like, oh, you don't think I'm real? I'm going to show you.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
When you were going in and out of consciousness, when you say that you realized there was something else other than your physical body, how did that appear? Was it like a light or a voice or?
Yeah. Like a lot of people with NDEs share about the similar experiences, but it was like a profound sense of light.
Mm.
And that whole saying that like your life flashes before your eyes, it was true. My entire life flashed before my eyes, but the only person that was judging it was me, but my most objective self.
Mm.
And at the time, I judged my life as like not in alignment with my soul's purpose. Yeah, so it was a lot of grief, but
Mm-hmm.
also like, okay, I haven't completed my mission here. And it was like a choice, but also like a forcing of back into the physical body
Mm.
to live out the purpose.
What was that purpose?
Well, for me was to assist the evolution of consciousness,
Mm.
to like bring light and to heal those
Yeah.
around me. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for sharing that story. It makes me think I was looking at your website and there's a service that you have that's called Spirituality and Consciousness. And I know that right now there's this whole wave of people that are like, I'm spiritually awakening, or maybe I want to spiritually awaken. So, can you describe what a spiritual awakening even is?
Well, I think that there's different like almost levels of it, right? But I think at the most fundamental level, it's disidentifying with the mind. Being able to have an awareness that we are not the egos or the mind or the personality, the ability to see that I am something other than. And I
Mm.
think that that is like fundamental almost level. And then from
Yeah.
there, it can become a sensitivity to, oh, everything is actually energy. And oh, it's actually, we're all just one thing. We're all connected in this realm of energy. And
Mm.
then, oh, we're all love.
Wow.
And then that there's a soul and that soul
Mm.
awareness to awaken to our soul awareness and then the purpose within each of our souls. Yeah. So there's so many different like dimensions of spiritual awakenings, I feel.
Right, right. And I know so many people that want to like know their soul purpose and they're like on this quest. And for you, it happened in a very acute way. So how can someone find that without having a near-death experience?
I think it unfolds naturally
Mm.
when we're on the path of getting in touch with our soul. And which what that means is to start to let go of everything that isn't us.
Yeah.
Right? The things that we've, our environments have really impacted like our sense of self and our egos and our
Mm.
personalities, and we've accumulated a lot of baggage. And then
Yeah.
once we do this work of really letting go and detaching from what isn't us, all of a sudden we become our most authentic selves. And then
Mm.
from there, what you just follow what feels good. And that might not be like, I need to go be a teacher or a healer. It could just be like, my purpose is to just like be a loving mother and
True.
create a beautiful human, right? Or like to just create art or to just really ultimately, I find that our purpose is just to be the
Mm.
best version of ourselves. And then whatever that light is, influence
Yeah.
all those around us. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that because I think it takes off the pressure that a soul purpose has to be this like huge monumental thing and you have to make like the biggest impact on earth. I when I worked at a spa in high school, there was a woman who worked there who said that she had this psychedelic experience where she saw that her soul purpose was to just have fun. That was it, like joy. That was her purpose. And it's so simple and so true. So I hope that people don't get wrapped up in it needing to be this huge thing.
Absolutely. And when we're in that state of joy, when we're in that state of like whatever lights us up, that is the most impactful thing,
Yeah,
for
you're
those
right.
around us. Because if we're all energy, right? Like to be able to be in that state, we're impacting others and we're actually helping them raise their frequencies as well.
You're
Hmm.
right. We're all spreading it just by being
Yeah,
it.
right.
I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of go backwards to the moment that you realized that, well, you had your spiritual awakening in that moment. And then when you came back, and I assume that you had to do a lot of physical healing first after the injury. But once you were fully back, what was it like for you to integrate with this new understanding? Like you're no longer atheist. You now think that there's something greater. What was it like for you? I'm feeling like that must have been somewhat of an identity crisis.
Yeah, it was very difficult, I think, at the time, especially because I was living in such an unconscious state
Mm,
beforehand. There, I had so much trauma and just like unprocessed stuff. And so, yeah, it was like a deep journey into my shadow, deep
ooh.
journey into all of the places that for so much I didn't even realize was holding me back, and I
Yeah.
didn't even realize I was working from all these
Wow.
shadow places. And so it was one, like doing a lot of clearing and accepting of these dark parts within myself and these places of trauma and wounding and where I was
Mm,
living out of. And so doing
yeah.
a lot of healing work there, but then also integrating this part where it's like, oh, I'm going to die. Like Erica, all these
Mm,
connections that I have, this body one day is no longer going to be here.
mm.
And really truly integrating that. I was bedridden for 6 months. So I was just like sitting on my bed, like just
Wow.
doing all this work nonstop for 6 months.
Solo? Did you have like a mentor or something?
I had no, but because I think the whatever happened to me when I
Mm.
went to the other side, like there was a spark of like an inner healer that was teaching
Oh,
me. It
oh,
was like my
wow.
soul came online and that was my teacher. And so it was like this weird duality between like, yeah, I was like my ego and then I was also my soul. And then it was like teaching each other.
Wow. Wow. You were mentoring yourself on the bed.
Yeah.
Literally. And this was all while being a social worker, right?
I was
Well,
about to go to grad school to become a social worker.
oh, where down the line did you realize that you wanted to do holistic psychotherapy?
Like right after the near death experience, right? So because that woke me wide open, and so
Mm,
that totally shifted how I looked at the healing work. And so still desiring to get the like the Western, almost like medical view of psychology, and then
mm.
combining it with like this other really important spiritual aspect.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Mm,
wave that people are interested in.
totally.
Obviously. Can you can you describe what psychotherapy looks like?
Yeah.
Holistic psychotherapy.
Oh, holistic psychotherapy. I mean, the difference between normal psychotherapy and holistic psychotherapy is that we're looking through the lens of mind, body, spirit, right?
Mm,
So it's the whole of a person. And for me specifically, I see soul first.
mm,
Soul first, and then there's the personality, and the body mind, which we can
yeah.
also call it, or we can call it also the ego. And
Mm,
so holistic psychology is the ability to recognize that all three parts need to come online. All three parts need to be taken care of. And if not, then there's going to be some form of imbalance,
mm.
you know.
Yes. I know people that are interested in holistic things, but they aren't totally sure that a spirit/soul exists yet. Do you think it's a prerequisite for them to think that before going into holistic work?
Honestly, most of the people I work with don't are pretty closed off to spirit at first.
Interesting.
Yes, they're usually coming in with like normal therapy hasn't worked for me, so I'm just like giving this a try now.
Oh,
And so I don't think it is. I think it's like we meet as a therapist, like we meet a client where they're at,
mm,
on the journey. And then it's through like first healing the personality, right? We want someone to be able to function really well, and in the relationships, be able to work, all the things. And then from there, starting to use like questions or especially experiences to help
mm.
them awaken to parts of themselves that are beyond the mind and beyond the personality. I can't like make it happen, but I can create the environment
Yeah.
and like hold the frequency of
Mm,
soul,
hmm.
and then just see what happens from there.
Ooh, I like how you said that, hold the frequency, because I feel like when you hold that frequency, inevitably they're either going to rise to it or they're going to fall out and then they're going to say, this is not for me. But you're just doing your part in holding that bar.
Yes, exactly. And again, if everything is energy, right? And we're constantly in relationship to these different frequencies around us, right? And so
Mm,
as our role as a therapist is to, yeah, resonate with the highest frequencies. And then yes, exactly as you said, the client has the subconscious almost choice of
right.
buying in or not. Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Have you ever had a client that was, I guess, how do you teach people about energy? Like for the people that are interested, but they don't know much about it, like how do you teach them without blowing them away too fast? You know?
Yeah. It's first just getting them into their own bodies, because once they're starting to connect to their bodies deeply, they can start to feel it. They can start to feel it themselves within their hands. A lot of times, you can start
True.
to feel energy in your hands. You can start to feel energy. Like once they start to notice that emotions, like when I ask you, hey, where are you feeling this in your body right now? Like, where is this anger? Oh, it's feeling like the warmth in my lower belly.
Mm,
Okay, then that's energy, actually. Like the emotions, energy and motion, it literally
mhm.
is energy. So we start there, just from like recognizing that emotions are just energy in the body. And then from there we come outside of the body, we start to
Mm,
recognize, okay, what does the space around you feel like? So we're getting in touch with the more subtle realms, and that's
mhm.
when it's something that can just be developed with sensitivity and practice.
Yeah, yeah. So the
Hmm.
body level first, and then from there, it sounds like it's a natural progression to be able to understand the subtleties of it.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh my goodness. When you were in social work school and you were talking about all of these things, presumably, what was that like for the teachers and for maybe even the students to hear you talk about these quote unquote woo woo things?
Um, the professors, Like, we would get into, like, fights
Oh
sometimes
God.
because some professors would just be like, "CBT is the only way to go," which is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's very focused on the mind, and
Mm,
there's absolutely it's so much power comes from that modality, and, like, that's not going to heal the roots. It's not going to it's just gonna get you through it's gonna manage your symptoms until it pops up in a different way,
right.
And so, yeah, so it was sometimes, but honestly, at one point, I just, like, went to such a state of acceptance that, like, this is just
Mm.
where they're at, and that in my practice, I'm going to bring in what I believe. And not
Oh
even just
yeah.
what I believe, it's, like, what I've experienced, So it's like,
Mm.
I know this to be true.
True. Oh, you're right. You're right. You wouldn't be able to teach anything else because this is your truth,
Mhm,
essentially.
mhm.
I think that was the hardest part for me too in grad school is just talking about these things. I'm feeling so alone. And you know what's crazy? The other day, I think like a week ago, I cried so much just grieving that experience in grad school, like essentially being bullied about these things. And I was holding on to this grief without knowing that I was. Like it's hard to do what we do in a world that isn't totally open to it yet. Although we're trending that way, right? There's a lot more people.
Absolutely, but it is really difficult. I remember, like, at my first job, um, in a rehab that was super traditionally based,
Mm.
the clinicians told me I was a witch and wouldn't let me in one of the rooms. They said, "Get your witchcraft away from me," and then they just, like, wouldn't let me walk into one of the rooms.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
think I cried after that too.
yeah,
'Cause it's really hard to, like, constantly be, yeah, working against a system that is just so different.
and feeling like you don't belong. Yeah.
Mhm.
I often wonder where that comes from ancestrally, like people who are so averse to it and, to extent of not letting you in a room. Like, I wonder where that trauma comes from.
I think I think religion is a part of it. I think culturally, right? Like, it's the unknown. It's scary, the dark, like, we don't know what's there,
Um,
And there's been so many stories around, like evil spirits and all of this, and so I mean, I get it. It's
mm,
understandable, right? There's been so much conditioning,
right,
but at the
right.
same time, yeah, there's
That's
so much
true.
power that can come from it too. There's so much light that can come from it too.
Right. Yeah. But the unknown makes sense. I had a friend who was atheist and now she's spiritual. And she says that she used to be scared of tarot and sage, which it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes a
It's
lot of
also, like,
sense.
not having control over these things, right? You have no control over what's going to happen. You have no control over what is this thing gonna do to me, right? And so, yeah, people that have a hard time letting go of control also can have a hard time with spirituality because all of a sudden there's higher powers that or yeah, different energies
Mm.
that can impact me. Like, I don't have control over that. Mhm.
Yeah. And well, it is always in a positive way. But now I'm curious, since you said negative energies, how do you protect against that, either with client work or your solo work?
I do a lot of visualization, and then also Kundalini yoga helps me a lot to
Mm,
clear my energy field and
mm,
say and also just like belief systems actually really help me. Like the belief that this is not going to
mm,
penetrate my auric field, that helps me because
yeah.
beliefs are what create our realities, right? And so
Mm,
sage is actually a symbol for something that's clearing our energies, and because we have so much belief in it, right, and it has so much power because of how much belief and power it's been given, right, it does help clear. It's
mm.
really just a symbol. It's really just a assistant
Oh, you're right. Kind of like a placebo effect in a
in
way.
a way.
Yeah, that's true. If you go around thinking, oh, everyone's going to hex me and I'm going to attract all this negative energy, you probably will.
Right.
Well, if someone wanted to work with you, where would they be able to find you?
They could go to www.quantumpsychotherapygroup.com.
I'm going to put that in the link. I'll also put your Instagram so they can check you out. And we're going to wrap up with one last question.
Yeah.
What is something that you're currently working on personally, whether professionally or personally, relationally? But what's one thing that you're currently moving through?
I would say to bring my most human self into my therapy practice. I
Hmm.
would say to be more human and more myself in my role as a therapist, not so much this like, blank slate, like to
Mm.
actually be here and to share about how I'm feeling with the client,
Ooh.
what kind of reaction I'm having to them. And so that is my edge right now. That has actually been extremely powerful, and I'm feeling it's like the next evolution of therapy.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Sharing what you're experiencing, I feel like also makes it like levels you out together where you're like a partnership instead of like, I am teaching you, like I'm with
Exactly.
you.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Erica. Thank you for
Thank
sharing your gifts.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing too. You're doing the same work. Truly, like we're doing the same work. It's really amazing. So like I bow down to you. Thank you for
We are.
all the
Oh,
leaps. Mm-hmm.
appreciate you. You need to come back on the show. We need you back. This is good. Thank you. If you enjoyed this podcast, there's one super special way that you can give back, and that is by liking and leaving a review. This is how the algorithm gets the message to spread the show, and together we can help people find healing one podcast episode at a time. You can find me on social media at Strategic Soul or on my website at www.mystrategicsoul.com. I am looking forward to hearing from you, sharing space with you, and being on this path together. Ciao.